and we have to do that. Anitra, did you press that?
I did, and I'm pressing it to the cloud.
Okay, good. Okay, that'll work. So we're going to have to pull an audible, but I have, so that's what took me so long, because Dr. Kimbrough is not responding at the moment. I'm praying that everything is okay. And in January, I was intending to bring on my dear friend Ty Cohen to, of course, some of you may know him. I'll get into his bio in just a moment. But we were going to talk in January of how to overcome life challenges to make millions of dollars. That was going to be, I was going to announce that tonight for January. December, we got the dynamic Linda Clemens, who's going to be on next month with us. And you know, if you know anything about Linda Clemens, you know she's very dynamic, has done tremendous work at Mind Valley and a few other places. And so she's going to come on in December, and we were going to kind of build this up for my brother Ty Cohen to come on in January to kick off the year, because he has a tremendous story of how he has overcome life challenges to make millions of dollars. And we wanted to explore that and kind of kick off the year with anybody who was having any life's challenges on, if he can do it, you can do it also. But what we're going to end up doing, since we can't get in contact with Dr. Kimbrough, I put in a quick the bat signal. I had to send up the bat signal to get one of my brothers to help, and Ty said that he would jump on in just a few minutes. And so let me make sure that he has the information. So we're just going to call a little, and if Dr. Kimbrough gets on, then you're going to get 2 for 1 tonight. But in the event he doesn't get on, Ty Cohen is going to be joining us in just a few moments. And so the subject matter, of course, of what makes the great great, which is the title that I pulled from Dr. Kimbrough's book, that we were going to kind of discuss this subject tonight in times of uncertainty, right? What makes you great in times of uncertainty? There's been nobody on the planet who has spoken to more high performers, whether in the business world, spiritual realm, you name it. Politics, business, Dr. Kimbrough has spoken to them all. So I'm just praying that everything is okay with him, and we'll get him back on very, very soon. But it pays to have relationships. That's what it pays to have relationships. And so you won't be shortchanged tonight, but we definitely want to pull an audible. I don't want to keep delaying contacting Dr. Kimbrough. And again, so I put up the bat signal, and Ty, in his way, it didn't take long for him to say, I'm on my way. Just let me get my daughter situated. So with that said, we're going to get ready to get started. And what I want to do is, Anitra, while I'm getting him the information, make sure that he's logging in. If we can just find out, let's see if we can start gathering some questions about your business. What do you do? I know some of you have already chimed in where you're from, but what business are you in, and how can we help you? Ty Cohen, again, I'll go through some of his accolades and achievements in just a few moments, but I want to kind of, since we have a couple minutes, I want to prep by finding out what business are you in, and what is the challenge or the problem that you're hoping to solve in these last 46 days of the year going into 2024, right? Hopefully you've knocked out, you've heard the conversation about individuals in the mob, the masters of business. And for those who don't know, I did hear a couple of people say, well, they saw the invitation, so you may not even know who the hell I am. And you're just on. So let me just briefly say that. I'm Brother Bedford, and I'm the founder of the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind Community. It's been my desire pretty much as far as I can remember, I want to say all my life, to inspire and help Black people to discover their entrepreneurial greatness, to become financially independent, and to live a life of freedom. And that includes money, relationships, time, and living on purpose. And in the mob, we have this saying that when we encompass all of those things, we're living in what we call total liberation, freed up from all of the trappings or the snares of being, and again, this is no offense to anyone who's in corporate America, but all of the traps and snares that keep us bound to where we're not living out those things, where we don't have enough money, right? We don't have enough time. We don't have the best of relationships. We're not doing what we feel that we were born to do. And so our mantra is to try to change that. And that's what I've done. And over the past 6 years, I've really discovered that the best way to do that is not through one coach. It's not through 1 or 2 books, right? That's how we all get roped in, right? There's this one book that's going to change my life forever. There's some books that can inspire you and really put you on the road to make some dramatic changes and improve our lives. I got libraries, I got boxes full of different books. And so I agree with all of that. But at the end of the day, the thing that's really going to change your life and my life is the relationships that we have, the continuous learning that we pull in from all of the dynamic people and resources that we know. And that's simply a community, right? You really can't get it without people. You really can't get it without peer-to-peer learning. You cannot get it without learning from others' experiences. And here's the best part. You'll begin to discover, as I've discovered, that when you begin to share your unique experiences, your talents, your skills, and your gifts, it begins to help you when you begin to help others. And so this is what the mob is all about. This is what this environment is all about. This is why I've developed these relationships, to have these conversations with these thought leaders and millionaires. When I decided to do this 18 years ago, these interviews were one-on-one, right? It was just me and Dr. Kimbrough, me and Dr. Frazier. And then as time passed, I said, wouldn't it be nice now that we include everybody in the conversation so that we can all grow together, so that we can all learn together, so that we can learn from each other's experiences and even ask those questions that you're afraid to ask, right? Those things that you know you should be asking, but you don't have the right peer group to ask the question. And so we said, we're going to develop an environment so where you can hear from someone who's generated tens of millions of dollars yourself. And if there's a question that's burning that you know that you want to ask, or someone else ask a question that you probably hadn't even thought of, being in the room, being able to get that question answered can really change the trajectory of your life. And then I'm hoping that you'll see someone in here that you say, you know what, I think I need to, Joyce over there in Bermuda, that might be nice. How can I connect with Joyce to get over to Bermuda? And then we got, Linda, she's over in California and she deals with all of these jazz greats. How can I connect with her? And so that's what this environment is all about. And so for those who are new to me, that's what I do. I'm not going to go through the whole litany of conversations and all of the stuff I've done. You're here now. You saw the flyer. We'll get back to me in a little bit. But right now, Anitra, if you can just ask a few people why I make sure that Ty has the information and some questions, or what's their business and what's their number one challenge. And we'll try to ask Ty 1 or 2 probing questions, kind of delve into that. But then I'm going to open it up for everyone else. All you got to do is raise your hand to get in the queue, and you'll be able to ask Ty the questions that's on your heart to ask him on your own. So Anitra, if you could take over for just 1 second, just so that I can make sure that he has all of the information to get in, okay?
Absolutely, I got you. So who wants to go first? I did put the questions in the chat, so if you can see the chat, and you can answer in there if you don't want to go live, but I see Linda. Hi, Linda, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I am well. Go ahead.
I was typing it in the chat, but I just said, let me just say it. What my logo in the back represents is I'm in the business of serving my tribe of 60 plus jazz and blues legends. I've been doing this work with them for the past 15 years. And if I could say I had a challenge, the only challenge would be I'm testing myself to see if I can raise $10,000 by December 31st. just straight up asking, encouraging, begging them that I've served for 15 years to contribute to our fundraiser for the end of the year. So if that's a challenge, then that's what I'm facing. But welcome to be here. We've known Brother Bedford for a very long time. We're in the Fraser Neck mob.
Yes,
George
yes.
C. Fraser. I do a lot of executive assistant work for him. I'm the one in the background making a lot of the buttons work. So welcome to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So that's your limitations is, because you did say limitations. Is it based on what you're doing to raise the $10,000? Is that where you see your limitation?
No, that limitations was one of the things that I was given Brother Bedford to be able to say about corporate America. It limits you from being able to have the freedom that you want. So that was where that came in at.
Ah, okay. So I
But it's
see.
just, I've never asked. This is my first time in 15 years asking them for anything, and I'm kind of gun shy. That's probably what's happening. But I'm taking baby steps. I got fundraisers. I got a Fat Burger fundraiser. I got a Solstice glasses fundraiser, and I got a Jam at Barbara Morrison's Performing Arts Center fundraiser. So I've given them 3 options to be able to really let me know if they love me over these 15 years.
Good. So and now we all on you, Linda, right now at the moment. So with your fundraiser, are you asking from the jazz professionals or the community at large for these donations?
My community, my jazz and blues legends that I've honored over these past 15 years, and their friends and our community of jazz.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody, the only person I see whose name on here I know is Veronica. She's out here with me. To know anybody else in California who would kind of know Barbara Morrison. I worked with her before she passed 2 years ago. And this is why I have this nonprofit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wants to share what's their business and what's their challenge? Man, what is it with the cricket?
I'll share.
We'll get to them. We'll get to them. All of these bashful people, and my people are never bashful. So we're gonna get it started. So again, welcome everybody. And again, I apologize just for those who are coming in a little bit late. And I heard your challenge, Linda, and so we're gonna address that. And then I'm sure my big brother Ty has some suggestions for you as well as we may. We'll see how that goes, because we don't want to turn this into a pure mastermind meeting, but that's one of the elements of what we do in the mob that, as I was alluding to earlier, that I believe is so attractive, is that being in a community and then using the power of the principle of a mastermind, being able to be in a group where you can put challenges and obstacles on the table and then have others in the group to be your sounding board, your advisors, and even share with you some of the experiences that they have that you may not have been privy to, that could really help change the trajectory of your life and really take you to heights that you've never seen before. And so I've been preaching, and I did see your comment earlier today too, Selena. I put something out a couple weeks ago about making the transition from coaching to community, right? And it's not that coaching isn't valuable, the skill, the learning, even having that skill yourself to coach others, but then probably the most important part of that is being coachable. Most of us want coaching, but we're not very coachable. And then we beat the coach up for trying to coach us. And so for us as Black people, we're communal people, right? And if we really get back to our roots, you'll understand that a lot of our problem solving was done in community. It was peer-to-peer, it was family, it was mentors. And so we are getting back to that. And so Selena, I saw your post on that, or your response to me about moving, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the power of the mastermind. So what we would normally do in that type of situation with what Linda shared, if this was like pure masterminding, some of us don't like the term hot seat, but Linda would kind of be on like the hot seat, and we would ask her some probing questions to kind of get clarity. As Joyce alluded to earlier, that's the number one things that happen in these type of environments. And if you're honest and transparent and have very thorough conversations, one of the big takeaways that would happen from something like this is that you would come away with clarity, and clarity can do so much for you and your business. Most of us are stuck because we just don't know where we're going. We don't know to go left. We don't know to go right. So clarity is the number one thing you want to start trying to pull away from environments or meetings like this, because you already got the experience, you already got tools, you already got all types of things at your disposal. But if you don't have clarity, you wouldn't know how to use those tools effectively. And so what we'll do, we're going to put that on the table, as well as a few other challenges that you all may have, to kind of see what myself and Ty can deal with those things. And Ty, let me go ahead and make you co-host and also spotlight you coming in here so that you can be on. So I'm going to make you co-host, Ty. And I told everybody, Ty said, I put up the bat signal, and Ty just put on his cape, without hesitation. He just looked over and say, my brother's in trouble. Let me go there right now. And so without hesitation, my brother Ty Cohen is here. So I'm gonna put you on spotlight, Ty, and I think I'm gonna put myself on spotlight so that we can, if I can, no, we'll keep you on spotlight. And I think we can switch that up. But we'll go back and forth. So as I was just getting ready to say, real quick.
I just added you because I hate to be on spotlight by myself.
Oh, so okay. So we're both on the spotlight right now.
There we go.
And thank you, Ty, so much. I mean, we can go on and on, but again, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to be respectful of everyone else's time. But there's so many lessons in here that we can really just begin to unpack. But what I want to do now, Ty, I didn't have a chance to kind of explain everything about who and what you are. And I don't have, the bio in front of me. So, I can speak off the top of my head, but to be respectful of your time and everyone else's time, can you take a few minutes to kind of share with everyone who you are and what you do, and then we'll begin to open it up for some questions, okay?
Absolutely. So first I want to apologize. So when Brother Bradford said, can you come in here? I said, yes, I committed. And then my wife said, no. She committed me to picking up my daughter, right? So that's where I was at. I committed first thing this morning. It was maybe a couple of hours ago, I think, or so, 8 hours, 9 hours ago. And I said, absolutely, yes. And then my wife said, don't forget, you got to pick someone. So I'm happy to see Melanie and Joyce and a few other familiar faces. And just really quickly, so I'm gonna give you guys something, and I'm gonna share something with you. And I'm not sharing it out of ego. I'm not sharing it out of and I don't want you to look at me as anyone special. So I'm going to say something to you, and then I'm going to give you some context behind it. So we recently did some additions, and we added up the amount of revenue that I've helped other people to make and that I've made in my businesses. And I've helped a lot of our JV partners to make. And what I've directly made has been about $50 million.
Hold on 1 second. Put yourselves on mute. Let's make sure that everyone is muted. And when we come to our questions, we'll unmute yourself. All right. So Ty, you was getting ready to say something. That was almost like breaking news. I ain't never heard you get ready to say what you personally made, but just so put yourselves on mute. I wish I had the ticker signal going across the bottom of the screen and say, this is breaking news. Ty Cohen reveals.
So in business, I started in business pretty early in life, and collectively I made about $50 million, about $75 million in total with partners. And the reason why I share that with you is because I want you to understand that a big portion of that was made through what you just said, community. And I've always thought of myself as being this introverted person, this person that was, to myself and that was close to chest. And I didn't start seeing success until I was open to working with other people and building out this community, exactly what you're doing here. And more importantly, it started to become more fun. After I hit a certain level, business just became business. But when I started to work with other people, which is why I said, absolutely, I'd be honored and I'm thrilled to jump on this thing, it started to become more fun. I could then meet people like Melanie, who I got a chance to meet before, or I could meet someone like Joyce, who I had a chance to meet on a call similar to this before. And I think that that's where the true value comes into play. You had said something, Brother Bedford, and actually, I'm going to touch on that really quickly because I just remembered why I started off with what I made. So I was able to do that, even coming from a household where my mom and dad were separated. My father was very abusive to my mother. My father ended up, he was one of the hardest working individuals on the planet that I know of. He was a construction worker, which was his main job. He also worked part-time as a security guard and as a taxi driver. That job ended up getting him killed because some young kids tried to rob him. And coincidentally, it happened to be some individuals that was in my neighborhood that we used to run with, me and my brother, as we were kids. We ended up finding that out later. I also grew up with sickle cell anemia, so born with sickle cell anemia, so spent probably close to 1,000.
I'm sorry, I did not receive a response.
Occasions in the hospital. I've had a lot of obstacles, and I'll tell you, look, life will continue to life. Life doesn't stop lifing. The advantage that you have is if you have some struggle, that is your advantage, because you can always look at who you were at one point and how you overcame those struggles, whether it was the death of a loved one, whether it was something that you personally went through yourself. And you could say, look, I didn't forget who I was and who I had to become to overcome those struggles. So that was my story. I started in business as a way of a coping mechanism with dealing with sickle cell anemia. I was in the hospital so much so that I started collecting comic books, and I had so much comic books. My mom was like, look, either you're going to throw some of these things out or I'm going to throw them out. And that was my journey into business. It allowed me to say, okay, well, I can't let her throw these things out. I'm going to start selling them independently and helping other people, and then in turn helping myself. And I figured that out at 19. And that was my journey into business. I realized that if I could help other people, Zig Ziglar, the late Zig Ziglar used to say, if you help enough other people to get what they want, you can get anything that you want. Right? So it doesn't have to be selfish. So going back to the whole, you talked about, Brother Bedford, at the very beginning, clarity. The only regret, one of the few regrets that I had was early enough on, I wasn't clear about what I wanted to achieve in business. All right, I wasn't clear. So I'm asking you to be very clear as to what the end of your life, and by no means am I talking about, I'm talking this into existence. Well, I'm not saying end of the life for no one, right. But at the end of your life, what would your business have done, not only for you, but for your family and for the people that it served, right? So getting very clear on that. Who is your ideal customer, your ideal prospect? Getting clear on how much time you want to work. Getting clear on where your customers are. Getting clear on who they look, what they look like. Getting clear on the problems that they have. Getting clear on the possible solutions that you could give them. Getting clear on your pricing. Getting clear on as many things as you possibly can, but most importantly, at the end of this 10-year, this 20-year, this 30, 40, 50-year period, being very clear as to what that looks like for you. Because if you know what that looks like at the end, all you have to start doing now is connecting the dots. Right. Versus if, it's like if you jump in a car and I have no idea, I said, I got 4 children. I said to my kids, look, let's jump in the car. First thing they're going to ask is what?
Where we going?
Where are we going, Dad?
Where are we going? How long is it going to take?
Right. Somebody has some kids over here, right? So how long is it going to take? So, and if I say, I don't know, we're just going somewhere, they're going to look at me as a lost leader. So if you are a solo entrepreneur, or if you have a team, or if you have, a goal of having a team, Be very clear, because that's going to be the number one thing that helps you to number one, run your life and your business, right? And it's going to help you to manage your team. So I wasn't clear on what I wanted my family life to look like. Right. So when I say clarity, I also mean being clear on the things that you don't want. So I went to a conference recently, and I'm gonna stop it at this. And there's some of my colleagues, some of my peers that were at this event, and some of these individuals I've known for years, very successful businesses, but the family life is not there. So I made a decision early on, because I would see that I was clear that was not going to be it. I wanted to have a successful business, but also a successful relationship with my wife and a successful relationship with my children. So all of these things, as you're in business and as you're starting up your businesses, these are the things that people don't tell you about, right? And you only find these things out after you've been in business for a while. So the clarity and the community are two things that you talked about, and I really wanted to touch on those because they make just so much sense listening to them and giving some context to what you said.
No, thank you so much for that, Ty. And before you got on, and for those of you who are just jumping on, I know some probably were jumping on expecting to see Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. Something is happening right there, and as soon as I get off, I'll kind of see exactly what's going on. And of course, if there's anything I need to report back, I will report back. But what you're hearing now, the person that you're seeing on the screen and the voice that you're hearing is a dear friend of mine, Ty Cohen, who was one of the first people that I started following when I got online. You know, when I started online, when it was just dial up and stuff like that, you know, there was only a few of us Black folks in the internet marketing space. And Ty Cohen was one of them. There was another gentleman named Willie Crawford, who was another one. Yeah. So I'm taking some of you back down memory lane on when I first started. But Ty, before you got on, as I was telling them, as Ty mentioned, I reached out to him earlier because I'd already told some of the people in the community, I said, man, I want to get Ty in here at the first of the year because I want you all to hear the message of the challenges that Ty overcame to do exactly what he's doing now, is, as I said, making millions of dollars, having a beautiful lifestyle. But this major challenge that he's overcome, and I really wanted to kind of touch on that, Ty. You know, again, this is kind of, you know, I want to do this, and then we're going to get into some questions. Linda had already talked about a challenge that she's having. Then we're going to get some of you who have some challenges that you want to put on the table to see if we can get some insight from Ty. And then we'll go a little bit deeper. And of course, I'll ask Ty to share some other resources with you all that could be helpful for you. But Ty, before you jumped on, and before I say this, let me just give a quick lesson. This is a quick lesson for those who just jumped on. Again, I would be remiss of my duties if I didn't share this lesson. One of you're witnessing the power of relationship. I want you to think about that Dr. Dennis Kimbrough could not make it. Some of you are on here waiting in silence, some of you, to my surprise, to see some of you didn't even want to report where you're from. Like, where are you from? And it's like crickets. I'm ashamed of you. I'll talk about you a little bit later after we get off. But you were expecting to hear Dr. Kimbrough, and he wasn't here. But due to a relationship that I have, I'm able to reach out to someone. Again, I put the back signal up, and Ty put on his cape, and he done swooped in here, and he's going to share some things that I know for a fact will be life-changing for it. If not some of you, I know one of you, after hearing something from Ty, your life will not be the same moving forward. So Ty, I just want to kind of go straight to it. You were in a hospital bed.
Yep.
And you overheard the doctor saying that you probably wouldn't make it past a certain age.
Yeah.
How do you hear that? Again, you heard it. So it's not like you didn't hear it. You literally heard it. How do you hear something like that and then still do everything that you're doing and not let that deter you from being as successful as you are, not just in business, but in family and life as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the success in family and in life is even more important than the success in money or in business. So at that age, I was 12 years old, right? So my mom had 8 kids. And it was just me and my sister Gwen that were born with sickle cell anemia. And at that age, I was 12 years old. I was in Yale New Haven Hospital, in the Children's Hospital. I was going through a sickle cell anemia crisis, and I had been through these at 12 years old, maybe about, I don't know, dozens of times at this point, right? Where I would be in the hospital for days or sometimes weeks. The longest period was a month. And if you guys are not familiar with sickle cell anemia, let me know, because I'd love to be able to kind of educate you guys on what it is at some point, maybe towards the end of this, if you'd like. So I'm in the hospital here, and outside of my hospital room door, I can still see it. It's clear as day right now. My mother and a hematologist was speaking. And he says to her in this matter-of-fact voice, "Mrs. Cohen, you should not expect your son Ty to live past the age of 17. And at that point, you know, I'm given, I don't even know how to process that, to be honest with you. Now, looking back in hindsight, the only thing that I knew to do was put the covers over my head, and I just start crying. Like, I start bawling. You guys remember for those of you who used to get hit with a switch back in the day, you know, that sniffling. I was doing that. No switch involved or anything. I'm just thinking, look, I'm 12 years old. That means I have 5 more years. This is what's going through my head.
Right.
5 more years, 17. And you know, me and my mom had this conversation. We talked about this. It took me, I probably was about 30 years old until I finally had the conversation with my mother.
Hmm.
So I've been living with this for all that time. And you know what changed for me is one day, my mom and dad were separated, but my father would go to church. He was religiously, you know, involved in the church. And he would come by and he would pick up me and my younger brother, Michael. And I remember one day in the back of his car, I see this book. It was a book by Les Brown. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history. So I'm 12 years old. I grew up in Father Panic Village. If you guys, I want everyone to go in and Google Father Panic Village, one of the worst housing projects in the Northeast at that time, to the point where state troopers were afraid to come in. And a state trooper got, unfortunately, lost his life there. And so this was my reality, seeing this, and then also being born with sickle cell anemia. So I'm thinking, well, look, I got 5 more years. I might as well go out and have some fun. And I'm having fun in the way that I saw in my environment. That's why the environment is so important, right? Because you think you start to normalize things that are a part of your environment. So I started to do some very destructive things to myself, to other people. And at about 17, my father's driving us back from church. We went to East End Baptist Church. He had this old Volkswagen Beetle. He didn't have an entrepreneurial bone in his body. So in the back seat of his car, me and my brother Michael were there. I see this book by Les Brown, and I start flipping through it. I was always a very voracious reader because my mom knew that buying books for me and bringing them to the hospital would be a way for me to get my mind off of the pain. So I'm reading this book by Les Brown, and he's saying, if you could look up, you could get up.
That's Les. That's right.
Never let somebody else's opinion of you become your reality. And I'm hearing all of these phrases, and I'm hearing all of these things, and then I'm hearing it from a Black man.
Right.
I had never heard of personal development, self-improvement. It was totally different to me. And I ended up taking that book, and I ended up stealing it from my dad's car. And I don't know why I stole it, because if I would have asked him, he would have said, absolutely, take it. Right? So we got home, we pulled up at 95 Howland Street. I put the book underneath my shirt, jumped out the car, said, I love you, Dad, I'll see you. But the book had such an impact on me that I stayed up till about 2, 3 o'clock that night reading it. And I read it over and over and over. And that was the beginning of a paradigm shift for me.
Right.
That was the beginning right there of me having life, and me understanding that, look, no one dictates, other than the person that we can look at in the mirror, and God, of course, no one dictates the path that we're on. Ultimately, if it's to be, it's up to us, right? It's up to us. Coincidentally, after I got out of the hospital, about 3 or 4 months later, my older sister Gwen died from sickle cell anemia. So both of us, I have no idea how my mom dealt with it. Single mother, on welfare, running back and forth to the hospital, had all these other kids to take care of. So now as my sister Gwen dies, I'm still about 12 or 13 at this age. So now the reality of me not making it to 17 becomes even more so. Right? So, and it's having this book by Les Brown. That's why every single one of you is so important, because you never know. There's such a thing called the butterfly effect, and hopefully you guys have all heard about it. The flap of a butterfly's wings can totally change the weather. The flap of a butterfly's wings all the way out in the Caribbean can affect the weather miles and miles and miles away. You making a decision to do what it is that was put in your heart to do and genuinely do can affect someone else's life. Imagine if Les Brown had never put his book out.
Right.
I had started to become a terror at the age of 16 and 17 years old, a terror. And by him making the decision to put his book out, I was able to change the direction that I was going in. And not only that, but also influence the lives of other people. Now my personal mission is to positively impact the lives of 100 million people a year. So when you said, hey, can you come on? I said, absolutely. Even if he has 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people, that's going to get me closer to my 100 million. I could check off 10 million, 10 additional people here. So that's how I dealt with, and some of these things we still process.
Yeah.
Right. So some of the things we still process. So there you go.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, again, Todd. So think about that, with whatever we're facing and challenged with. And this is not a contest for my pain is greater than this pain. That's not what this is about. It's Ty has been such an inspiration to me, because to this day, as he said, he's still processing. I know sometimes when Ty is not online, I know he may be in the hospital dealing with an episode to this very day.
Yeah, I posted recently on that. Did you see? Recently, I had to go get a blood transfusion. This was maybe about 2 weeks ago, because I was going through an episode, right? And so, and I don't say, look, like you said, I love the way that you just said it. You said this is not a battle between whose pain is greater, because my mom used to say, there's always someone else who has it worse. So when I used to start feeling guilty about myself, she would say, son, there's a kid that's about your age, 12, 13, 14 years old, that has sickle cell anemia, and he just found out that he has cancer. Oh,
my mom can put it in perspective, can't she?
Ooh. Right?
Right. Wow. And look at this. And so now, see, because I know some of the stories, so I'm trying to fill in some of the holes. So you go from the backseat stealing Les Brown book to sharing stages with Les Brown. How does that feel?
Sharing stages with Les Brown. Matter of fact, my book here, Les wrote the intro to my book here, right? So, I mean, that was a dream come true there. They say sometimes you shouldn't meet the people that you look up to. But in Les's case, Les is authentically who you see.
Yeah.
And I was so glad to hear that, right? He's authentic. And it came through. So we'll bring this thing full circle. It came through relationships and community. So I got to meet people like Les Brown and Bob Proctor, and I was hoping Dr. Kimber would be on here, right? Because he's an individual that I look up to. But because of your relationship, I have that relationship. So it's so important. Look, the hardest thing for me to do was to believe that I could do this. The most challenging thing that I could do was to believe that I could do it. A kid from the ghetto, parents split, sickle cell anemia, barely made it out of high school, stayed back twice, couldn't do the college and university thing. So, and if you want to add, we can pile on, we could keep piling stuff on all day long, right? Because all of us have things. The late Wayne Dyer used to say, if you look around hard enough, you can find enough things to be offended by.
That's right.
Right? So at some point, it was always like, how am I going to do it? The hardest thing for me to do was to believe that I could do it. The easiest thing was doing it once I got past that.
Mm-hmm.
The most challenging thing for you to do is to believe that you can do it, right? Because you might say, well, I don't have the support. I don't have the money. I might not have the know-how. I may not have the best equipment. I may not know. I might be afraid of flying, whatever it might be. If you can work on those things, everything else becomes infinitely easier. And if you can work on multiplying the reasons why you have to do it, think of all the reasons why you have to do it. Whether it's your children, whether it's your husband, whether it's your I've got a student of mine who's doing it. When I say doing it, her business, because her husband is no longer able to work. So she's taking that load on her back. She says, I have to make sure that this thing works. Almost 60 years old. So I don't believe that there's any limits. I don't believe that there's any age limits. I don't believe that there's any gender limits. I don't believe that there's any racial limits. Now, I'm not naive to things, because there are things, right? We're not going to say there's no stupidity here, but I do believe that we can push past things.
Right.
Right. So
wow.
you're doing this. You're
Yeah.
doing it right here. Right?
This is good, man. And of course I got a bunch of questions that I could ask you. And we're gonna revisit this conversation. We're gonna come back and do another conversation. Again, we were planning to kind of set this up for the new year for everyone. But again, thank you, Ty, from the depths of my heart for making a beeline over here to help us out today. So I could talk to Ty, and I get an opportunity to talk to Ty often. The reason we wanted to do this, as I mentioned before, when I first started that series 17, 18 years ago now, it was one-on-one, right? So I could get the information and I can report back to people. I put it in an ebook, or we started podcasting before it was podcasting, right? We started doing all of that type of stuff back then. But the rebirth of this, what inspired me now, is that now we can truly have conversations with other people in the room. And so at this point, I want you to, if you have a question that you want to ask Ty. Now, Ty has several, Ty, let's do this real quick. Let's take about a couple minutes before we queue up the questions. Take a couple minutes to kind of explain the types of businesses that you're in, so that we can kind of, give you some direction as to what type of questions you can ask Ty. But Ty's in multiple, he's in real estate, he publishing. So he started in the music. I don't know why all of us started in like the music business. Ty, that's kind of a thing that we have too, back in the day, starting in the music business long ago. So he has a world of experience in the business space. So no question should be off limits, but I do want you to kind of know exactly what he has done and is doing currently. So take a few moments, Ty, to really talk about your business specific, so that people know exactly what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we help businesses with their marketing. So if you've got an online business or an offline business, we've got a business that helps with marketing. And when I say marketing, I'm talking about traditional marketing in the form, I come from a direct mail marketing background. So we help with direct mail pieces. We help with direct marketing in the sense of television ads, commercial ads, radio ads. These are things that I don't talk about much. I also have a publishing business called Kindle Cash Flow. You might see my name over here. We help authors and people who don't even realize that they have a book in them to become authors as well. We also help people to create digital businesses online. So digital publishing businesses, meaning coaches and consultants to help create their courses, to help market their courses. And then, of course, we have a real estate business. So my wife and I started to buy luxury properties. And that actually came about in a really funny way, to be honest with you. Remember I was talking about your why. So my why was to help my wife. She's a nurse by trade who worked with medically fragile children. And she had gotten into 2 car accidents, both rear-ended, major back problems. And I needed to retire her early. Needed to retire her at about 39 years old. Retiring her was a gift in a sense, but I like to work. I enjoy what I do. So she's at home, and come 12, 1 o'clock, she's saying, hey, let's go out to lunch. And at first, it was the most beautiful thing ever. We're going out to lunch, but after a while, you know, somebody who enjoys what they love to do, you don't pull them away from it every day. So I said, okay, I have to get my wife into something that she loves doing. She's a people person, right? She's amazing when it comes to home decorating. She's amazing when it comes to building relationships. And she had been wanting to start an Airbnb business. So I said, okay, we're going to start an Airbnb business. I want to go and buy luxury properties. So we go in and we buy luxury properties that are between $750 to $1 million in destination areas, meaning destination areas where our family would also like to go in and travel. So now she heads that business. So we have a real estate business in that sense. And that business serves two purposes. Number one, it goes back to what I was saying about Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, you can get anything that you want. So we build out these properties that my wife goes in and makes sure that they're managed well. And we give our renters this amazing experience, but also we have this asset that appreciates that we now put in our trust and that can be passed down to our children so that we're creating generational wealth as well. So when you run businesses in the right way, there's so much that you can get out of it. But it goes back to, again, what's your long-term vision? What do you want that thing to look like? So there we go.
That's great, Todd. And we definitely got to unpack what you want so that we won't just keep being random in our business practices. It's very random, and some of us are scatterbrained. We're all over the place. And so Todd makes a very valid point with being focused and knowing exactly where you want to go. So with that said, now I want to invite you into the conversation. Now, one of the great benefits of being in the mob is that you get an opportunity to ask questions first, right? So that's a plus for you. So what we want to do, I'm looking at the hand. So raise your hand, but mob members, if you got a question first. And then, of course, Linda, let me see if I'm looking for you, Linda. Linda already posed a question or a challenge that she has. So as soon as we go through a few questions with mob members first, then we'll go directly in the queue. And I'm looking at the hand, so I kind of see the order that they're going up. And then we'll kind of tackle these. Ty, you good, Ty? How much time? First, I didn't even ask. See, that's the beautiful part about, and I don't, you got friends, and you just say, man, show up. I ain't even asked Ty, like, man, how much time you got? I ain't even ask him. I mean, how much time do you have, Ty?
For you, we're good. We're good to go. I see. Listen, I'm good to go. We could continue going. Like I said, I love this stuff, and I love being able to talk to people. And yeah, I'm open.
Good. See, that's another lesson there, y'all. That's a nugget. Never abuse your relationships. When you have people who just add a tremendous amount of value to your life, if we're not careful, we'll have a tendency to kind of just, keep using the relationship, and then we teeter over that line and we start abusing the relationship. So Dr. Frazier always taught me to be very courteous and respectful with our relationships. And it's okay to ask questions like that. How much time you have, and do we gotta go? And now we can deal right now. So Ty done gave, so y'all saw he gave me the green light. So we getting ready to deal right now and invite you into the conversation. So my man, Dr. Will, it's so good to see you here. So I can't wait to hear your question, Dr. Will. So we'll get to you in just a second. So thank you for joining us, dear brother. I thought I saw Dr. Harris in here too, Sean Harris. So that's what happens, Dr. Kimbrough brings out the doctors. So we got a lot of doctors in the house. Okay, so let's do this. I'm looking at the hands. So Joyce, let's go with you first. And Joyce is in Bermuda time. You remember I asked you, Ty. So first, if those of you who are interested, we're going to do our first retreat in April in Bermuda. You got are the dates behind you? It's on her screen, right? So we want to go to Bermuda, and we want to take the community with us to kind of do what we call woosah. And Ty talked about it. So I'll ask you at the end, Ty, this is one of my questions about how you manage time, because we have a different philosophy surrounding time. And there's this thing called what we call rejuvenation days. And so our retreats are not like working retreats. We don't want them to be. We want to go and rejuvenate. We call it woosah, right? If anybody remember Bad Boys, the movie, when Martin was talking about woosah, so we want to work, but then we want to go and woosah in Bermuda. And so that's going to be in April. So if you're interested in that, make sure you let me know. And I'm hoping, and so I wanted to kind of make sure that Ty know early enough. Dr. Will want to let you know early enough if you all got some time in April. What's the date again, Joyce? Can you just say it real quick, just so people can be on notice and save the date?
April 17th to the 21st, 2024.
Okay, 2024, April 17th through the 21st, we want to spend a few days in Bermuda on the pink sands, woosawing. So save the date if you can make it, and I'll come back to you with more information. I just kind of wanted to put that out there since we're getting ready to let Joyce ask her question to Ty first. Go ahead, Joyce.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ty. This is awesome that you're here. I'm honored that you remember me from the other mastermind. And question it, to do and be where you are, it takes community, it takes people. So about how long did it take you to build a team that you were comfortable with? Because with all that you do and go through, there must be times where you just have to leave your business to somebody else if you're in the hospital or things like that to spend time with your family. So how, in a nutshell, I guess, did you build the team and get the people that you needed around you? And how long did it take you to get that right team?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you're going to always continuously build your team, right? One of the things is you're going to see what people will cycle through. You'll see where you'll get some really good people. I've got some really amazing people that are on my team right now that I'm almost every day, I'm thankful for the fact that they work for me. Very thankful. I've got a CMO that's amazing. I've got a chief marketing officer that's amazing. Customer support individuals that are incredible. It took me a while, and I'm going to tell you the reason why it took me a while. It took me a while because I was so unwilling to give up control. Almost every single entrepreneur goes through that. I always thought that nobody else could do it better than me. I had this, and I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if it was so prideful in the business. I don't know if I just truly thought that. But once I discovered, now look, I'd rather get something done 70% and get it done than not get it done. I was at a point where I just had like these notepads and just things that I wanted to do and implement in the business. And I'm looking at them year after year after year, and none of this stuff is happening because it's all on me. And finally I said, this is just craziness. Like, this is nuts, right? So I started to really get to a point where I had to slowly but surely start hiring people. Now, remember I said that you want to understand where your business should look, what it should look like. So I knew that my family is super important to me. I also knew that time and quality of life is super important to me. So I needed people that were going to be available. I started hiring people off of Upwork. I started hiring people off of Indeed. I didn't want to have a local team, and it might be different for you, because I had a local office with about 4 or 5 people in it initially, and it just wasn't fit for me. It just didn't resonate with me. So I said, I have to get people that are virtual, and this was before the pandemic. So coincidentally, when the pandemic did happen, it worked out. So the first thing is understand if you're that person, and if you're watching this, chances are you're that person. Meaning you're that person who doesn't want to give up control. You're the person who doesn't think that anyone else could do it as good as you. But remember, like, if you want to grow your business, if you want to scale it, then at some point you have to be able to allow people to come in. Now, here's a tip that I use to this day, and that is, if I need someone, I'll go in and hire someone at maybe just about 10 hours initially. Right? Because for me, initially, when I first started hiring people, it's like, man, how am I going to afford someone at 20, 30, 40 hours a week? Right? That was the major thing for me. And then I realized, like, there's moms, there's dads, there's individuals, there's college students, there's professionals who just have 10 hours. Like, they're great at what they do, but they don't have 40 hours. Those are the people that I'm looking for. So I started hiring those people. Matter of fact, one of my first hires was in my customer support department. Her name is Sherry Adam. White lady that's in the Mid-East. 15 years later, she's still with me. I hired her working 5 hours a week because I was so uncertain of that. I was uncertain of if I could afford her, uncertain as if I knew, how to handle her. The other thing is, depending on where your business is at, you might want to hire 2 people for the same role at the same time. So this is something that I do right now. So I hire 2 people for the same role at the same time, and I'll tell them, look, these are 1099 individuals, right? So they're freelancers for the most part. So you're not obligated to your local, state, and federal laws when it comes to 1099s. I mean, there are some laws that you have to abide when it comes to 1099s. You can't tell them like when to work and things like that. But with that, so now I'm able to say, okay, I'm going to hire both of you guys for the same project. We're going to have a 2-week trial, and whoever outperforms the other is the one that's going to stay. So I'm letting them know that, look, I'm pitting you guys against one another. Now, my hiring process is on Zoom because, again, they're virtual, right? Even when I had a physical office, this was my hiring process. I would get 4, 5, 6 people in on Zoom just like this, and I'm asking them questions, and I kind of pre-frame it by saying, I'm going to ask you questions, and it's in no particular order, meaning whoever wants to answer this question, you come up and you answer it. So I might have a list of 10 different questions that I might go and ask. Boom, 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 right? Things like, why do you think you're fit for this job? What was your last job experience like? Why did you quit that last job? What did you think about the manager or the person that was overseeing you at that last job? Because people will start to tell you things, and they'll tell you things about themselves when they start to talk, right? And then after I'm interviewing everyone, so I'm interviewing, again, 4, 5, 6 people at once, I then at the very end, I say, okay, well, now here's the toughest question, and I want you to be fair and I want you to be objective. If you were me and you had to choose one of the individuals that are here on this Zoom call for this position, who would you choose? And you can't say yourself. And then you see the room gets quiet. So I go around and I say, okay, well, Kimberly, who would you choose, right? Then like James, who would you choose? Joyce, who would you choose? And people know when there's a candidate that's better than them. And then yourself, and typically the person that you were thinking about is the person that got the most votes. So that's the hiring process, and that has not failed me. I've been using that over the last 5 years or so. So hopefully that answers your question.
So you foster competition. You foster competition in your business. You want them to rise to the occasion.
100%, especially initially, right? Because look, we all come when we get into a relationship, when we're applying for a job, when we're interviewing, we put a mask on.
Right.
Right. I'm in a hoodie right now. I'm not going to a job interview like this, depending on what the job is. So I'm gonna go in, and then once I get the job, 3 weeks later, I might put my hoodie on.
Right.
So I'm fostering that competition to a degree because I want people to answer in their best possible way. And look, I'm not always looking for skill set. I'm looking for people that can figure things out, that are critical thinkers, because one of the most missing skills that we have, that we see nowadays, are people who are critical thinkers. I don't want someone, because of, again, the way I intend my business to run, I want people who are going to be able to fight fires instead of coming to me to fight every single fire.
Right.
And now I can pull from those people at some point, and now I can put them in management positions.
That's good. That's good. Well, part 2 to that real quick, because I think this will be helpful to some people. Because you mentioned something about the young lady who's been with you for 15 years. So do you subscribe to the philosophy of firing people quickly, or do you want talented people to stay with you as long as possible?
No, so slow to hire, quick to fire. We've all heard that, right? Mm-hmm. That has been something else. That's a great question there, right? So that's something that I wish I had learned really early. Look, I understand that when I'm hiring someone, that someone has worked for me. There was a young lady that was in my customer support department, but I should have fired her a year before I actually fired her. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I didn't fire her is because I knew that she had children, right? I knew that she had a family. I had gotten a chance to talk to her and know her a little bit, right? So my emotions got involved. Now, it could be twofold. It could be your emotions, and also you're looking out for someone. But often I'll say that people will fire themselves. Especially, here's the other thing. The biggest thing for me is when you're hiring someone, you have to be very clear on what their goals and objections and their roles are. So I use something called the 4R sheet. It's roles, responsibilities, requirements, So if you're super, and if you guys want a copy of that, let me know and I'll share it with you freely. But people have to be very clear as to what their roles and their responsibilities are. That's how you can tell someone that's going to be a great team member or a terrible team member. You don't want someone guessing at what they should be doing. If it's really clear from everyone that runs, like the team members that run our advertisements, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, to our customer support department, to our marketing department, to our content development department, they're very clear on what their roles are. Before that, people were not as efficient as they should have been because they were guessing. And it was on me as a leader to not let them guess, right? So think about it. If you went into your place of work, or even if you don't work now, think about it, right? You went there and you were not clear as to what your responsibilities would be. It would be really frustrating, right? So as a leader, it's really important for you to make sure that you're clear as to what everyone's responsibilities are. And then it makes it easier to come back to your initial statement. It makes it easier to let someone go. Because at the very beginning, you said, hey, look, it's documented. Boom, 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 boom. These are what your responsibilities are. And then you can even go over those, that 4R document with them every month, every week, every quarter if you want, so that it's clear and it's present. And they now have a target. So if they don't follow that target, now it's easier for you to let them go. So hopefully that made sense. So.
That's good. That answer your question, Joyce? Yeah, great question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great answers there.
Yeah.
Great question.
Expecting all of that, plus the resource sheet. So I see everybody saying, yes, please give us that 4R sheet. So we'll make sure we go back through this again real quick to make sure everybody get those resources. So let's go to Lynette and then Sister Audrey, and then we'll go into all of the hands in order. I'm gonna go in the order that I see them. So Lynette, go ahead real quick.
Okay,
Not
thank you
real
so very
quick.
much.
Questioning, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you so very much, Ty and Brother Bedford, for this occasion. I wanted to ask you two questions, but I know we were told to ask one. So I'm going to stick with the one. The one question I'd like to ask is, I have changed my target market to financial services. I have an IT business and we focus on cybersecurity and compliance. And so since we're niching down to more like the accountants as well as CPAs, because of the FTC safeguard rules and the different rules and regulations they have to abide by, and because cybersecurity, they're the number 2 in the world that is hacked. Number 1 is healthcare. So with that being said, I'm trying to figure out the best way to market to them. I mean, I do have some things going on. I have some brand architecture type items going on. So that'll be finished by the end of this year to roll out in the new year. But just in the meantime, in between time, the best way that you would feel like would be to get the word out to them other than education. I have been doing a few webinars and stepping outside my comfort zone of public speaking. So my question is what would you say the best method would be to get the word out to these particular potential new clients and in the most economical method?
That's a great question. So these are corporations, right? For the most part, they're not individuals.
Yes, definitely B2B. Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is find out what their biggest pain is. Like what's something that, if it's not possibly a pain for them right now, could be a pain in the future. Because most companies, even if they're aware of it, it's not like directly in their line of thought, like their immediate line of thought. Most companies don't act until something happens, right? And then with cybersecurity, I've got a cousin of mine who manages, he's in the healthcare space and they do healthcare billing. And he manages about 200 staff members there. They just got hacked earlier this year and they were held for ransom. And the ransom was something like $10 million. And you've probably seen this, right? Where companies get held for ransom, they get cyber hacked. And he says, look, our company, they were aware that these things happen, but they just wasn't proactive on it. Right. So I would say go in and educate them. Look at all of the cases where things like this have happened, where companies have gotten hacked where they've had these fines that they've had to pay. That's what some of these hackers call them, like a fine, you're paying this ransom. And then also look at where they've had to go in and rebuild in some cases, because there's a lot of companies that get hacked out there and their infrastructure gets attacked and they have to go in and rebuild. And that's even more costly sometimes to the point where it puts some companies out of business. So what I would do is I would go in and educate. I know you said that you're educating them, but educate them on the pains of getting hacked, the pains of rebuilding, right? The pains of what this would cost to now go in and put all of the security systems in place. So those are the things. For anyone that has a customer here, the easiest way to attract your customer is to agitate the issue that they have. So number one, build awareness to the problem that they have, because sometimes they may know that they have a problem, but they're not totally aware as to how much that problem could affect them. Until you really paint this picture and you agitate that issue and you say, you know what, here's the solution. So now you're able to provide them with the solution. The second thing is, as far as marketing, is most of the relationships that I have in the spaces that I'm in came from other relationships. And it came from me simply asking, hey, who else do you know that I could serve? That's it. And people are so freely with going, especially if you do a good job, they're free to go in and recommend you to someone else. So as you start to get your foot in the door, you just simply ask, who else, out here can I go in and serve, or who can you connect me to? And people like to be able to go in and make those connections. No one asks that question. So if you go in and you ask that question now, it paints you in a totally different light. And it makes it even better because now you're coming from one of their peers, someone that they're referring over. It's always going to be easier if Joyce says, hey, Ty, I went to this amazing steakhouse last night. The steak was so good that I was able to go back home. I didn't even eat all my food, but I was able to go back the next day, reheat the steak, and the steak still was good, provided she's not a vegetarian or a vegan, right? So hopefully. But so that referral coming from Joyce is better than me seeing a commercial from the steakhouse, right? Because Joyce is someone that I would know, like, and trust. So the same when you look, the hardest thing is going to be getting in the door. But once you get in the door, it's game on. At that point, it is game on. It's not about black or white, it's about green. Every single, even people that initially didn't like me for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't like me because my wife was prettier than theirs. Whatever the reason was, right? I'm being facetious here. I'm just having some fun. But once they realize, like, look, you know what you're doing and you can make them some money, everything else goes out the window. So now you start to build up this resume and you say, okay, well, I've worked at company XYZ. I've worked with this company, and you have to be open to doing a little bit of bragging. This is not a time to be humble at all. So talk about the companies that you worked with, talk about the clients that you worked with, talk about the results that you've been able to get them, and say, look, I'm the best person for this job, right? So doing the word of mouth marketing, and then agitating the pain, bringing this level of awareness to how it could hurt them if they don't go in and hire you and take action, right? And then there you go. So hopefully that's been able to help you out.
Yes, thank you. And that is where that's the direction we're heading, where we're going after the pain point. And the pain point is shutting down the doors due to either a hack and, like you say, ransomware, the fines for being non-compliant with the Federal Trade Commissioner, or also lawsuits. So that is the area that we're focusing on.
There you go. Smart.
Sister Audrey, you're up next.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cohen, for joining us this evening on short notice. What advice do you have for digital and print magazines to generate revenue? I saw that you're into digital publishing and marketing. And I have a woman's magazine based on Proverbs 31, Virtue Magazine. And so since so many people are promoting themselves online and things of that nature, and I'm not sure of the future of the direction of digital publishing, what advice do you have for digital and print magazines to generate revenue?
Yeah, good question. So two things I would do. Number one is seek advertising. You're probably already doing that, right? But when you seek advertisement, go big, like go after corporations. Like nothing stops you from going big initially. So go big, go after some of the corporations, get really good at going after corporations. And if you don't feel like doing it, go hire someone and you can do some type of rev share, right? So you could say, hey, look, I'm gonna go in and seek advertisers. And whoever you bring in, I'll give you a percentage of what they spend. The other thing is you should start to create a training. There's a lot of people that would like to create a digital magazine. So create a training showing exactly what it is that you're doing. That's how I got into some of my businesses. So a lot of my businesses I started because it was something that I loved doing. And then so many people would say, hey, Ty, can you show me this? Can you show me how to do this? Or I would have other people who would say, hey, you should start teaching this to people. And that's how my businesses grew. So you should teach the thing that you love as well. So do the thing that you love, but also teach the thing that you love. So now it's a double whammy. You're making money from doing the thing, and you're also making money from teaching the thing. Now, I'm going to tell you the biggest mental roadblock is going to be, I don't want to create competition with myself. Competition, there's no such thing as competition. It only helps you to, there's so much abundance on this planet that there's more than enough for everyone. Even if every single person on this planet wanted a red BMW, do you think they would say, oh no, we're only making about 1,500 of these things? Right? So don't worry about the competition, especially if you're first to market, like, and if you're good at what you're doing, you can do really well. The other thing that you could do is you could teach people how to do what you're doing for a percentage of their sales as well. So I was talking to a peer of mine, Sam Bell, who I think you might know, Brother Bedford.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
we had a long conversation today. And I asked him, I said, Sam, so to give you some context, so Sam runs a media advertising agency. And traditionally, the way that advertising agencies work is they take a retainer and they work off of your monthly ad spend. So they'll take a retainer, you might pay them $3,000, $5,000 a month, and then a percentage of your ad spend. So let's say if you're spending $1,000 a month, they might take 5% of that, 3%, or whatever it might be. So I said, Sam, in all of your years of doing this, what are some of the things that you would have done differently? And he said, man, it's such a coincidence that you asked that, because I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks. And he said, what I would have done is I would have done some type of rev share model. And that is basically for everyone that I'm running ads for, I take a percentage of the profits. He says, I've helped people to make millions of dollars. Now, imagine if I've only taken 3% or 5% of all the profits. And there were people that would gladly pay that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a model that I'm incorporating in some of my businesses as well. So I would definitely go in and teach people how to get started with a digital magazine. But also say, look, we're going to teach you this. This is the cost of the course, and we'll take a percentage of the profits. And this is not a new model. This is a model that people have been using forever, right? It's just starting to become more well-known. I've got a friend of mine, Roland Frazier, who's an attorney. And this guy has made a lot of money just doing this, teaching people how to go in and buy and sell businesses. And then the businesses that they buy, he takes a percentage, a small percentage, 3%, 4%, 5% of their profits. Yep. And he's got hundreds of these different businesses. So you can do this in any model. So
interesting thing about that model real quick, and you mentioned a couple of things, but the interesting thing about that model, sometimes when you're looking at certain businesses and you're wondering, how is it that they're profitable? Because it doesn't seem like it's a profitable business model, but that's a revenue stream on the back end. If you got, in Roland's case, these are businesses. And so sometimes you can go in or sell the product or service. You know how some of us want a discount, say, okay, here's the price, but for this amount of price, we can get you in the magazine, but we want 5% of any sales that you get from our ad space or from our sponsorship or whatever it is. And you'll find that most times that pays more than what they would be paying for a regular ad or sponsorship. But it's one of those models, it's creative thinking, right? It's you got to introduce that to the people that's coming to you, because they're not going to think of doing that, saying, is it even feasible for me to give Audrey 5% of my sales if she's featuring me in her publication or on her magazine. They're not even thinking that way. But once you introduce it, I say, sure, it's no problem. But if they start getting a tremendous amount of sales, you get, can you imagine having 10, 15, as he mentioned, Roland's businesses, 10, 15, 20 businesses where you're getting a 5, 10% of their revenue, it can be pretty significant. So
Yeah, Roland has hundreds of businesses.
yeah, he has hundreds. I mean, he's at a scale that's
Yep. So
great.
and these are the things, look, that traditionally are not shared with us.
Yeah.
Because of the internet, it's being shared more and more. You got smart people like Dr. Will Moreland. I mean, this brother shares all types of stuff, right?
Right.
So I'm even honored to be on here with him. So, but it's knowing it and then going in and putting it into place. The other thing that has worked tremendously for a lot of my businesses is having a continuity model. So a subscription model where every single month people are paying to be part of that community.
Yeah.
So I would never start a business again without having some type of a subscription or continuity model in it. It's a decision that I made, I started my first continuity business, I want to say in 2009. And that coincidentally was the music business that you talked about earlier. And I saw the power of that, the power of acquiring a customer once, but that customer paying you multiple times over and over and over and over again, right? Instead of acquiring a customer one time and then paying you one time. So you can have continuity and a subscription model baked into anything. You see Panera Bread has done it. You see Starbucks has done it, coffee of a month. You see Netflix, right? You see YouTube TV, YouTube has it, Apple, I mean, all Amazon with Prime, Audible, all of them billion-dollar companies.
You name
What's
it.
that?
I say, you name it. You're right. There's a subscription attached to all of these models.
Yeah. So there's a lot that you can
Excellent.
do. Yeah.
Is that helpful?
sir.
Sorry, that's helpful.
Oh, yes. It shows that I'm on the right track because I'm developing the course with Danielle Leslie
Oh,
right now. So yeah.
you're definitely in good hands with Danielle, though.
Yeah,
So
yeah, she's a part of another group that we're
Thank you.
in. And here's another thing, just to kind of add to that real quick. You'll find that the type of transactions that Ty is alluding to, if you notice, this is relational transactions. And I think that's one of the hangups that I've discovered from amongst us, is that we want to just remain transactional. What can I give? You give me some money, then I'm done with it. But if you notice what Ty is saying, all of these models, they attach you to someone or some other entity over a period of time. And you got to get comfortable with saying, you know what, I want to be in relationship with this person. If their business is going to be paying me every month, or a person's going to be, you're going to be in a relationship with them. And so I think that's a mental shift that I've seen a lot of us struggle with. But that's the era, that's the time that we're in. It's important to think about relational income instead of transactional income, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Real quick, we're going to go to, before we come to you, Dr. Will, Ashley, and Kimberly, you all are going to wrap it up. I just want to make sure that, Linda, you're still on, because Linda asked a question prior to. So we'll tackle that question, and then we'll come to you, Dr. Will, real quick. Linda, tell Ty exactly your question or the challenge that you're having real quick and what you're trying to do.
As I put in the chat, my challenge right now is just to raise $10,000 by December 31st, 2023, and have a successor. I had to amend that first chat that I put in and have a successor of this successful nonprofit by July 31st, 2026. And that, in hearing your conversation, that's how I got clear to give you dates. Now I got dates on it.
The date is super important. Yeah.
So Ty, real quick. So, and let me try to encapsulate this for Linda real quick. Let me ask you, Linda, because you weren't as clear earlier. Are you trying to raise the funds from the public, the $10,000, or are you trying to raise them from
my community, from my jazz and blues community?
Is that the people that's in the community, the Jews, the blues artists, the jazz artists?
Mainly, I'm going to them first, and then it'll trickle out from them to the public.
Okay, so she's trying to raise
$10,000
for the nonprofit from her community, Ty. Hopefully that'll help you kind of give some insight.
And the challenge might be is that I feel like I didn't gave 15 years of my life to serving. Now I need to be given back to, because it just needs to happen. And I got a timeline for it to happen.
I
So
got
that's
Perfect. So two questions. Number one, so just for clarity, you said blues artists,
jazz and blues, yes.
jazz and blues. Okay. The second question is where are the funds going to, like, what's the cause that the funds are going to support?
Go back into the programs of hiring them. So we honor jazz and blues legends, and then we hire them in event planning that we do in the community, different galas that we hire them for, senior citizen homes. We hire them from different places
Wow.
to go
Okay.
and perform.
She's been funding this herself, Ty. So now she's shifting to trying to get funding to come in to fund this nonprofit to continue to highlight and support legendary jazz and blues artists.
Okay. So the first people I would reach out to, and it looks like you're already moving in this direction, is your network, right? Your community. This is the reason why, guys, you want to go out and speak to as many people as possible, build out these relationships, because when we do a fundraiser for the National Sickle Cell Anemia Association. So every year I've been building that number up more and more and more, right? And I see the way it gets easier to hit those numbers. And it gets easier because of relationships. I can go in, I can reach out to people. Some people might donate $5. Some people might donate $5,000, right? But it's because of relationships. So first go in and reach out to the relationships and double down and just think about who else could I reach out to? And then ask, who else do you know that I could reach out to? Right? So everyone that you're reaching out to, ask them, hey, do you know of 2 or 3 other people that I could reach out to? The other thing is go on Instagram. Look, all of these social media platforms that are out there, Instagram, Facebook, like you're 6 degrees of separation from anyone on the planet that you want to reach. So there's some Instagram accounts that are out there that got 10,000, 100,000 people where you can go in and you can say, look, you're a blues artist, you're a jazz artist, here's my cause. Build out a nice page that neatly describes what it is that you're looking to raise these funds for, so that people don't, you're going to start seeing where people are asking the same questions over and over and over and over again. Put the answers to those questions on that page. On there, you should have a video with yourself. Hey, look, my name is Linda. I've been involved with the jazz and the blues community for X number of years. I funded XYZ myself. Now I'm looking to have other people help me. Tell a story too behind that. Talk about why you got involved. People love stories. They'll be glued into it. Why you got involved with it. How it's helped you. How you've been able to impact other people. What good has come out of it. And then say, look, I see that you have this network of 10,000 people, 15,000, 5,000 people. Would you mind sharing this link and posting it on your Facebook or posting it on your Instagram or retweeting it to your Twitter? And before you know it, if your message is clear enough, and if your story is strong enough, then people don't mind doing that. You're gonna, now here's the thing, for every person that you reach out to, just keep in mind that there's going to be some people that say no. But the more no's that you get, the more yeses you can get. I built out a list of 2,000 affiliates just by doing that on Facebook, just reaching out to people on Facebook, sending them Facebook messages one at a time. When I first started out, one at a time, slowly but surely. And at that time, Facebook didn't throttle you. Now, a lot of these platforms, they'll throttle you. And what I mean by that is you can only send out a certain amount of messages within a certain time period. But that's okay. Go in and send out 20 in that hour. Double back, 20. And now what you'll see is, you'll see out of those 20, 1 or 2 people will respond. And if people don't respond, don't get offended. That just means that, number one, they weren't meant for you. They weren't meant to be a part of this thing. And number 2, that just might not be the platform that they're on. Right? But I think that with this thing, $10,000, you can knock it out the park. By December 31st, you can absolutely knock it out the park. I think you should double your number, to be honest with you. Stop playing around. Come on, Linda.
20K, right?
20,000. Yeah, look.
I'm pushing myself to ask for this 10, so it's hard for me.
Is that helpful, Linda? Is that helpful?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, before
Social media though, Linda, and look, you have a beautiful face. You got a beautiful voice. Go in there and create video. It's just, it doesn't have to be professional. This is the mistake that we make. Take your phone. Hey, look, my name is Linda. I've been part of the jazz and blues community for 15 years. I put my money behind this thing. I am looking for help now from the community. You guys are intelligent. You guys are talented. I need some help. Here's a link to my page that details a little bit more about what it is that we're doing. With your help, we can help as many people as possible. Boom. And you got your video, you posted on your page. And now every single year you could do this.
I only have 3 years, Ty, but yeah, I hear you. I'm out.
He's already
I'm
ready
out.
to retire. She's trying
I'm
to.
out in 2026.
Let's do this before we get to. Was that helpful though, Linda? Is that good?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Good. Okay, before we get to the last 3 questions, and you're the last one, Kimberly, you're going to be the last one. I just want to make sure, Ty, how do you want, first, if you got any other resources, I know you mentioned the sheet that you want to give them, because if anybody got to get off, I want to make sure you at least get this information before you have to get off. So Ty, you mentioned the 4R sheet, and of course, a few people said yes. How do you want to get that to? Do you want an email? You want a link? What do we want to do here?
I could send it to you if you want. And then, so 2 things. I would love if you added me on Facebook or followed me on Facebook, or I could send the link to you, and then
That's fine. No, that's both of those work. So one, you all need to go and follow Ty on Facebook. That's a no-brainer. You should go and follow Ty on all of his social media channels. Kindle Cashflow, is it kindlecashflow.com?
So I'll actually give you a link. I'm going to give you, so it's going to be, if you go to tycohen.com/social, so tycohen.com/social, then you'll be able to follow me on all the different social media platforms that are out there. Facebook is the one that I'm the most active on. Yeah. So tycohen.com/social. I'll actually put the link in the chat box right here so that everyone has it.
Yeah, and then I'll make sure that I copy it. And of course, I'll disseminate that to everyone. If you've said in here that you want sheet, if you want, a matter of fact, put it in the chat that you want the sheet. Yeah, whatever the link is that Ty giving it. And if there's some miscommunication, you don't get it, I'll make sure that I connect you with Ty to get that sheet and to get any other resources that he may have for you. Anything else you want to share with him, Ty, before anybody else get off?
Yeah, and even after this, so I'm going to give you my phone number. So I'm going to put it in here. It's 203-526-6031. If you have any questions about business, about operating a business, and raising a family at the same time, operating your business and dealing with your spouse at the same time, operating your business and dealing with yourself, your limitations, reach out to me, send me a text, ask me a question, and I'll do my best to answer it.
So copy and paste that number before we move forward. I don't know where you can get these type of resources. So thank you for that, Ty. That's worth its weight in gold right there, to get your personal number to ask a question. Do I got your number? I don't even know if I got your number. I'm just joking, Ty. I think I got it all right. All right, so let's get to these last questions because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we just got a few moments left. Will, let's go to you, Dr. Will, first. Thank you for joining us, brothers. Good to see you, man. I hadn't seen you in a minute. It's good to see you and get ready to hear your voice.
Man, appreciate you, man. I really don't have a question. I just wanted to acknowledge you, Brother Bedford, and Ty, both of my homies, man. I just wanted to thank both of you for how you show up for our community, how you give back to the community, but how you do it in excellence. So I just wanted to acknowledge you. I've told you this in private, but I wanted to tell you this in public. I appreciate what both of you do for our community. Appreciate you, brother, so much.
Oh man.
Man, it's an honor. I'm always watching what you're doing and following you and getting inspiration. There's some mornings when I'm just chilling in bed and I see one of your posts and I'm like, what am I doing here? Let me get going. He's already up and out, and he's 3 hours behind me in California. So I love it.
Yeah, no doubt. And feelings are mutual there, brother. You know how much respect I have for you and the work that you've been doing over the years, man. So it's good. Thank you for acknowledging us public, but it's right back at you, brother. I see you all the time doing your work and really appreciate. Matter of fact, I think a few other people who are part of your community are always coming back for us saying, I'm working with Dr. Will. I'm like, that you work with the right one, then. So appreciate you there, brother.
Appreciate you, brothers, man. Love you. Happy holidays to you.
You
Do
too.
you mind if I ask a question of Dr. Will?
Sure. Go ahead.
Where do you get the energy from, man? I see you on plane, and where are you getting the energy from? What's the secret? You handsome, energy.
You guys, you know what? I'm over here on the West Coast, and I'm like, I know Brother Bedford is up. I know Ty is up. They got a 3-hour run on me. I got to get up, man. I got to get up, man. No, you know what? We're such in a wonderful opportunity right now. You mentioned it earlier, Ty, about social media. You talked about Les Brown and the book that you saw in your dad's back seat.
Yeah.
25 years ago, that wasn't possible. That's all we had, right? We just had less. It was just less, right?
Yeah.
It was a couple other, but it was just less. And so the opportunity that we have right now, Ty, you said it earlier, you want to reach 100 million people. Brother Bedford, I know that you're out there wanting to reach millions, and we actually have the opportunity. So that's what motivates me, man, that we literally can be on this device right now. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's people in Bermuda. It's people all around the world that can tap in. That motivates me. That inspires me, that literally we can really reach the world. We used to say that a long time ago, but we can literally, with our fingertips, you just shared that phone, like we can pick up our phone and reach the world. So that motivates me, man. That gets me up, man. But watching what you two are doing, Ty, me and you, we get together and we'll talk about some of the real estate stuff we're doing. And I'm just so motivated and energized by what you're doing. I've been watching Brother Bedford for years, getting on his email list. And so I'm just inspired by all the inspirational work that I see just the community is doing. So that's what fires me up, man. I love it.
I love it. Well, look, let's all keep inspiring one another, and that goes for everybody in the community here. So it's look, I come from an era where the phrase "each one teach one" was super popular.
That's right.
Right, each one teach one, and I think it's our obligation. So we all continue to teach and inspire, and work together, and motivate, and share, and just love each other and have fun. You know, I'm on here making jokes every once in a while, and that's because I just like to have fun. So that's it. So Dr. Will, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Will.
All right.
Ashley, let's get to you. Your question. Let me see. Yep, Ashley, you're up next.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Most people call me Coach A. Marie, but nice to meet you, Ty. I'm in the coaching industry. My goal was to close out my coaching company this year and to transition into the community side of it and the consultancy side of it. My question is about pricing. You talk a lot tonight about believing in yourself, and how do you fix your lips, or how do you have the courage to say a price that is so far beyond what you feel people would pay you for? I'm here in the Jacksonville area. My clients tell me I'm the best kept secret. My goal in 2024 is to go from unknown to the best of the best and the creme de la creme in the industry. And I intend to increase my prices into the high ticket market. How do you build up the courage to do that? Because I need it. I mean, I need it. And you talked about the balance. You talked about not running yourself into the ground. You talked about balancing family and life. And the way that I can do that is by increasing my prices. And so do you have any feedback in that arena for me?
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of entrepreneurs have problems with pricing themselves correctly, or pricing their products correctly. Luckily, this is something that I ran into earlier in life and starting. And I was reading the book by, at this point, I used to take the bus to the library downtown. And because I didn't have a computer or anything like that, so I used to take the bus to the library downtown. And at that time, they give you like 10 to 15 minutes to be on the computer. Right, so we go on the computer, boom. And in between my sessions to be able to get on the computer, I would go in and I would look up different books. And I remember reading the book, and the book that I read was by Dan Kennedy. And in it, he talked about the biggest problem that entrepreneurs have is pricing themselves, like having the nerve to believe in their product, their service. And he talked about, and excuse my language here for a second, but he talked about entrepreneurs not having big enough balls, right? And this goes for men and women. And it was something that I was dealing with at the time. At the time, I had started selling a software program, and I was selling it on eBay for $9.97. And at that time, I was still in the music space. And this was a software program called the 101 Music Business Contracts that allowed musicians to go in and customize any contract that they wanted. So a production contract, a recording studio contract, a management contract, anything. After I read that, I immediately went home and I 10x my price. And this was way before the phrase 10x got to be popular. And I made it at, and I sold it at $97. I did not see a decrease in the number of sales. I was selling about 4 or 5 copies a week at that time on eBay. I did not see a decrease in sales. I became a believer in it so much, and this was 20, Jesus Christ, this is crazy. This is almost 30 years ago now that I'm doing the math in my head, right? So much so that I went in and I had, years later, we were traveling somewhere, I think we were in Malaysia somewhere, and I saw this. And I bought them. This is a set of brass balls right here. And I keep them, and excuse me, please, there's so many ladies out here, I feel funny even saying it. But look, so I keep them right here in my left drawer. So anytime that I get resistance, and I've got a $25,000 coaching program, I've got a $15,000 coaching program, a $5,000 coaching program, right? And I still get resistance. I get people who pay $25,000 in one swipe, right? And I still get resistance. And when that comes up, doesn't come up as much, all I do is I open this thing up and I look at these and I'm like, Ty, stop playing. You got something that, if you have something that people could really get value of, now there's a difference between cheating people and just trying to beat people, right? But if you have something that people really can get value of, and you know that it's going to change their life, the information that I got that put me in the position that I'm at right now, had I had it, I would have paid $100,000. If I had it, I would have paid $1 million, because it infinitely gave me the returns, not only financially, but it gave me the ability to impact other people. It gave me the ability to be able to give confidence to other people. It gave me the ability to be able to put my children through college with no loans. It gave me the ability to retire my wife. It gave me the ability to talk to people and hopefully show them that they too can do it. If I can do it, trust me, you could do it as well, right? So when you believe in your product enough, the price does not become an issue. Now, the other thing is, if there's people that can afford you, that can't afford it, give it to them. Give it to them for $100. But you have, I am a big proponent of making people pay, because myself included, there's so many things that I've been gifted that I don't take advantage of. So when people pay, they pay attention. That doesn't mean that if you have a $1,000 program that you have to charge someone $1,000. We give scholarships to people all the time. My team, my coaches, they know, look, you're not gonna, I don't want someone making a decision between can they pay their rent or put food on the table and buying our course. That's not how we get down, right? So you charge people who are able to pay, and then you give it to people at a discount, a severe discount for those who are not. And you say, look, I want you to make a promise with me. I'm going in here and I'm doing something for you, and I want you to make sure that you go and you put this thing to use, because if it did, it can definitely change your life. Now, you have to be firm on that. You have to really believe that it could change people's lives, because the energy that you put behind things, look, we're all connected here in some way, and people are going to tell, especially women. So that's why us guys, we get in so much trouble. I stay in a doghouse with my wife. Because she might be like, hey, did you go to the grocery store yet? I'm on the phone, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to head out. Knowing I was not about to head out until she asked me.
Right.
Right? So you guys are very intuitive. Your customers are as well. So everything that you say to them, it has to be factual. You have to really believe in it. And when it comes to your price, you don't waver in the tone. As you're talking about your thing, your product, your service, you're excited about it, you're going all in. And then you don't get to the price and say, well, it's $100. You wouldn't want to buy one, would you?
Right.
And then your enthusiasm deflates. So you got to have that consistency all the way through. And even you notch it up when you get to the price. It's $1,000, but trust me, this $1,000 right here, you're gonna, what I tell people is it's XYZ, but you're going to remember this period in time when you paid for this thing. You're going to say, I was so glad that I bought this from Ty, because it gave me something different. It allowed me to do something different. It allowed me to become a different person. And most people are buying things because it allows them to become a different person. Not for the thing, but for the person that we have to become in order to make the thing work. Right? So whether you have a travel agency, whether you have a coaching program, whether you're selling information or awareness around cybersecurity, to get better at that, you have to become a better person. The time that you see right now, at 19, there's no way I could have come in and spoken to you guys. Didn't even have the confidence, didn't even believe that I could do it. Wouldn't have even believed in that first product. So you have to have this belief in your first product. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a perfectionist, because that's the other problem that we have as entrepreneurs. It has to be 100% right before we put it out there. Stop that. Right? Get it out there, because every moment that you're waiting is someone that's missing out on being served. Somebody that can be changed by the thing that you have there. There's so many people that can be changed by it. So go out there, look, put it out there, start charging. And then once you start charging, build it up. You can still have a lifestyle business by now starting to hire other coaches. I have coaches that work for me, and I pay them above industry standard. Industry standard is like 7, 8, 10%. I pay them 20%. And we treat each other like family, right? So if everyone can eat, you build a much stronger family, right? So hopefully that helped out. That was a great question.
It helps, Coach.
Thank you. And then Miss Lynette did a phenomenal job. I actually attended one of her cybersecurities and she shut it down. So I just wanted to say that publicly.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're getting ready to shut it down. Kimberly, you're going to be, everybody in the mob, they know how much I'm a Frankie Beverly and Mays fan. So whenever we get to the last question, I say, look, you closing it out. You Frankie Beverly and Mays today, Kimberly. So I want to know, what is your question for Ty? And then we'll wrap it up. And thank you all for being patient and staying with us. I hope that this has been very valuable for you. So Kimberly, you're closing us out. What's your question?
All right. Well, I'll try to make it quick. Thank you, Ty, for doing this. Oh my gosh, I've written down like 300 questions, but I'll try to make this one quick. So I teach tax professionals how to start, run, and grow their own independent tax business using ChatGPT. I am pivoting. I actually have a rev share model now where I charge a percentage of tax prep fees for coaching them how to build their business. I have a tax software that I sell as well, but I want to pivot into coaching. My challenges and my question is, I'm having the audience that I started with are early growth stage tax professionals, but now the messaging is not resonating with them. The coaching, they're not really seeing the value in coaching, or either it's my messaging that's off. And so I'm having like a bit, I guess I'll just say, if you had to start all the way over in your coaching business, what strategy or process would you follow first? What task would you prioritize? Or what would you first to start to if you had to start all the way over to get to your problem aware clients?
That's a great question. So at first I would look at the things that I had the most difficulty with, because you're in that space as well, right? That's how you started your coaching business. So I would look at the things that I had the most difficulty with, like the roadblocks that were the biggest things for me. And oftentimes it's belief, right? So in every single one of my coaching programs, we incorporate belief. Like that's the first set of modules, regardless of what it is. It could be real estate, it could be digital publishing, it could be anything. We overcome the belief because people don't believe that they could do it. They don't believe that they're worthy of doing it. They don't believe that they should do it. They don't believe that there's a next level for them. So we have to tackle all of those barriers first. And then the next thing that I would do is I would really go back and build out the relationships, because the relationships are going to help you to get to the people that you would never be able to get to otherwise. So I've been able to reach a lot of customers outside of advertising just because of the relationships. So getting comfortable with speaking to other people. And then the other thing that I would do is I would get very comfortable with speaking to people that don't look like me, don't sound like me, don't come from my background, because there's a lot of money in that. I've been able to do really well with speaking to people that don't just look like me, but also being able to speak to people that look like me, if that makes sense. So I'm both. So not alienating anyone out at all. The other thing that I would have done differently is I would just have set much bigger goals. So now I know for you, it's how do you go in? If the message is not resonating with them, that's going to be a very hard sell. Like, it's already proven to be a hard sell. You don't want to have, you could have business and have a business that's of ease. Like, you don't have to have a hard business. So really one of the things that I did early on was I would get on the phone with customers. Like, before I had customer support and everything else, I would call every single person that ordered, and I would say, hey, look, this is Ty calling. I'm calling you from XYZ. And it would just take, sometimes I meant to take 5 minutes, but depending on who you get, sometimes that 5 minutes would turn into 50 minutes. But it gave me so much insight into who my customer was. So understanding your customer avatar is going to be the biggest thing for everyone. Understanding what is the general age, what is the general income, which is not necessarily so important. Understanding where do they live, what does their household structure look like, did they go to college or did they not, and then what are some of the major problems, what are some of the things that keep them up at night, right? So really start to speak to people more and more and more, even if they're not a client, even if they're not a customer, but just going out there and put yourself on Front Street so that you can understand them more. And then by doing that, so if you could also do this, go in and put out quizzes, surveys, not quizzes, I'm sorry, surveys. So I've gotten so much insight from surveys, just putting surveys out there. Some of my best products I've been able to create based off of the answers that have come from surveys, because those answers never change. And we put out a survey every single year, and almost year after year after year since 2017, the answers have been almost identical, right? So we serve a group of writers, and with those writers, some of the top issues that they have are they don't know where to start. They don't know if anyone would buy their product, meaning their written material. They don't know if anyone would be willing to exchange money for their thing. They don't have the time to write, or they don't think they have the time to write. And all of these things I would have never thought of as the coach, as the product creator. So you get the feedback from your audience. And if you don't have a list right now, and every single person should be working on a list. Like, day one, if I had to start all over again, it would be building out a list. First thing, because the money is in the list, right? So building out a list, because you can go in, you can sell to that list, you can talk to that list, you can survey that list, and that list will tell you everything that you need to know in order to be able to create the best product or service for everyone else that's in that space. Because this person thinks the same way as this person, thinks the same way as this person. So hopefully that's helped you out there, and congrats on everything. I think you'll do great with this, but don't try to swim upstream.
Yeah.
I've done that too much. I lost time and money trying to put together things that I thought the marketplace wanted and the marketplace didn't want.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that help? Is that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely have what we call, from the direct marketing space, market message mismatch, right? They're not connecting. And that's the goal. Find the market that resonates with that message, or as Ty just said, if you found the market that you believe has the money, the ability to pay, as Ty talked about earlier, that the pain that they're experiencing, but they just don't quite know. Now you survey them. I love that, Ty. And now I'll say one other thing after this, because Joyce, me and Ty had a conversation recently about something you said earlier, Joyce, and it ties into what Ty just said. But you have to find out what have them articulate the pain to you.
Yes.
It's because sometimes it's not different. It's just that we're not saying it the way that they're hearing it. And I've discovered that the best way to get people to respond and pay you money, if you can describe their pain better than they can, you've won. You've won again, because they're just gonna be like, she understands me. And now
In my
they're
head.
ready to move forward. Yep. So, and the last thing I just want to say, because this goes into what you said earlier, Joyce, and this may be helpful for you too. Kimberly, I think a few other people. It was Ty, me and Ty had a conversation. Ty said something. He said, by the end of 2024, every business will have a newsletter. Did you say that, Ty?
Yep.
And then I said, Ty, I've been saying that for years. And then I said, Ty, I'm getting ready to switch mine to make that the core of my business in terms of my communications. And Ty, I don't know, you said you're getting ready to start 2 of them. Did you start them yet, Ty?
I have not started them. Not yet. So look, I need some accountability partners. Y'all got to hold me accountable.
Yeah, got to hold him accountable. But it ties into what he just said. I think moving forward, especially if you're in the professional services industry, find a way to develop a newsletter, some type of publication that would feed into these issues that you're talking about. And the coaching, those type of services, the coaching, the consulting, the community, as Coach Ashley was talking about earlier, all of those things, those are, to be quite honest, those are like back end products. And I think sometimes we suffer. How do we get on the front end to get the right type of leads, the quality leads that we want? And so I've been instructing, and I'm doing it myself, focusing on, and it's right where I started too, Ty. When I first started my very first site, it was a digital newsletter. We called it an e-zine back then. Yeah. But it would do you, most of us, well, to think of a way, as Ty just said, build that list. But people don't just want to give you the email for nothing, right? So what is the messaging? What is the packaging that you can put together that kind of speaks to them without, coming off as a hard sales message? And I believe that a newsletter should be in your future in some way to help you build the list. Think about having a newsletter. You can just slip the survey into the newsletter, as Ty just said, and they respond to the survey. So you're giving them information, you're teaching them, coaching them, training them, developing credibility and expertise, and you just slip a survey in there, they give you the stuff, and now you have the answers for the product that you want to deliver to them. So it's just, it's a long game, but I think it's a better game to start playing today, because people aren't just pulling out the credit cards for $5,000, $10,000 coaching programs cold nowadays. So I just wanted to say that because I think that's a theme that I've heard across a few people today, is that there's an opportunity for you to kind of do what Ty said, build your list, think of the type of the right packaging. In my case, it's a digital newsletter. I think Ty is going to do a digital newsletter, and I think it's in some of your best interests that you may want to think about that and build your list that way to kind of serve them. So Ty, I'm gonna let you close it out with some final words.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just add on to what you were saying about the newsletter?
Sure.
I think it's so important that people have clarity. And it's not just so we have a subscriber list, right? So I've got a list that we email offers to and promotions to. When Brother Bedford is talking about a newsletter, we're talking about value in that. And with ChatGPT, it is so easy to do it. On my list is to teach my 16-year-old and my 19-year-old, who also own digital publishing businesses. They started when they was 15. So 3 of my kids own digital publishing businesses. They all started when they were 15. My 19-year-old, he was 18 last year, and he taught my now 16-year-old when she was 15. So I taught him, and he's able to teach her. But when we talk about newsletters, it's value. So going in, you can, if you have no idea as to what you should include in your newsletter, you can go over to ChatGPT and you can say, hey, look, ChatGPT, my industry is XYZ. I want to put together a newsletter that provides immense amounts of value to people that would subscribe to it. What are some topics that I could cover in my issues? And it will give you a ton of ideas. Then you can go back and you can say, well, can you expand on this? Can you give me some more ideas? You don't have to be, an expert at ChatGPT. I think a lot of people get intimidated by it because they don't know how to properly prompt. Yep. But if you just go in and you start, you will get better, right? You will get better, but you have to start in order to get better at it. And then the frequency of your newsletter, it doesn't have to be daily, even if it's just weekly. There's so many different benefits to a newsletter. Not only will you just start to build up that rapport with your list, but like Brother Bedford said, you can sneak that survey in there. You can sneak sponsorships in there. It helps with your open rates. It helps with your engagement rates. It helps with your click-through rates. All of these things that Google and Yahoo and all of the other ISPs like to see. And when you do send promotional messages out, emails out, now you have a higher chance at getting an inbox because people will open up your newsletters. And now Google's not looking at your promotional email as a spam piece. So these newsletters, there's a lot of benefit to them. Brother Bedford, so Stephen Pierce.
My man, yeah.
Right. So I'm going to tell you the impact of newsletters. When I first got started in this space, in the digital space, I was on his mailing list, and he had a newsletter called The Truth, The Whole Truth. And then he would give away nothing but free information, free information, free information. And some of that free information I was able to take and apply to my business that I was starting at that time. And at one point, this was months later, he put together an offer. And he said, this is what I have to sell. I was one of the first to go in and buy that thing because of the value that he had given me so much. And I'm thinking in my head, like, man, if he's giving this amount of value in his free newsletter, imagine what the paid stuff is going to be. So there was no resistance. And I've always kept that in mind there. So now with ChatGPT and AI, there's like no one has an excuse not to have a newsletter out there, even though I just gave you an excuse as to why I didn't start mine, even though y'all got to pray for me. Y'all got to pray for me. I need a couple of prayers in my way.
And here's the other one last thing on the note. And here's so what we're gonna do, Ty. We got to come back as you launch yours, because now I'm gonna hold you accountable, and as I'm building out mine. Now we'll have something to come back and we'll brainstorm and just talk about newsletters one day in the near future. But one of the things that works for me, that will be working for me, Kimberly, and really all of you to think about, it's also a way to continue to build your relationship, not just with your audience, but you can have guests appearing. So other experts and authorities would be anxious to give you an article, or they already get videos, they already get blog posts, they already get things that's out there. And you can just simply say, I want to share this in my newsletter with my audience. They will not tell you no. And so my story of conversation with Black millionaires, if you notice, my prestige rose by having successful Black millionaires that I was interviewing. So it's this kind of magical thing that happens, that when you incorporate other authority figures, experts, and people with influence in your publications, one, how you begin to appear in the eyesight of your audience, but two, if you do it properly, you legitimately start to build relationships with other experts and authorities that you want to be in relationships with. It's something that's magical about that. And so you would be wise. Ty mentioned earlier, there's no competition.
No.
Kimberly, you can get a lot of those tax professionals and say, what, I'm the one that's starting a publication to help us in this industry. It's going to be a weekly newsletter that's going to come out, and they'll contribute. And their audience, even to this day, Ty, when Dr. Kimbrough comes out with a book and people go to Amazon and they buy his book, something amazing happens. People bought this book, also bought this book. So my name comes up because it's attached to Dr. Kimbrough, Dr. Frazier, Les Brown, things like that. So I want you to, as a part of your ChatGPT strategy, still think about incorporating other experts and authorities into the space with you. And as Ty said, it makes your life a whole lot easier. Look how Ty saved me and made my life a whole lot easier tonight. Because
nobody says no, right? Nobody says no. When you go in and you ask people to be interviewed, nobody says no. Yeah. And now you take those YouTube videos or those interviews or a Zoom video, and you take that and you have it transcribed. Yeah. You could repurpose it in so many different ways. You got the video, right? You can throw that up on Instagram. You could throw that up on TikTok. You guys should not be ignoring TikTok.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge market there of adults, right? So that's just not kids dancing. You can repurpose it on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. You can strip the audio out from it, and now you upload that to your podcast. You can take the transcription and you can use that in your newsletter. You want to go back to the blog format, you can use that. So this is what we do with our content. So we're getting 4 or 5 uses out of our content. We'll go in and do an interview, and then boom, in less than a day, we've been able to repurpose it in all of these different ways here. Because not everyone is going to watch the interview. There's some people that are auditory, right? Some people, I love books, but I prefer listening to them. So not everyone's going to watch a video. Not everyone's going to listen to an audio or blog post.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to go where your audience is going to be and be able to serve them.
Yeah.
So,
And just one last thing on that, because I'm thinking about you, Coach Ashley, with the price thing, because it's really a matter of adding value.
Yeah.
Right. You have to, if you're finding that it's difficult to ask for the price. One, I can't remember exactly. It could have been less. I'm trying to remember who told me, said, no, I think it was Lisa Nichols, who talked about one of the reasons that we have the challenge with asking for the prices that we want is because we haven't invested ourselves to a certain level. So it's very, and Ty said it's something that's very transparent about you asking for a price, and people can kind of see that you haven't committed to paying that type of price yourself. And you have to kind of bring that into some form of equilibrium, right? So the more you invest, as Ty said, in getting better and learning how to create value, it becomes easier to ask for what you want. Linda is saying, so even with Linda, you've invested a lot of time and money. So just think about that. It's the more you do that, it becomes easier to ask for the same type of investment from others. But it's always going to be difficult if you haven't done it prior to. So Coach Ashley, just think about the stuff that we just shared about this adding value, because coaching programs, even with you, Kimberly, to add the value to the coaching programs, all of these other things that Ty just mentioned can be added to it. So don't lower the price, just add more value. Find a way to add more value and not lower the price. If that makes sense. So I just felt compelled to say that because I think we kind of covered a lot of that in some of our questions. Ty, man, I love you, man.
Yeah, this is beautiful, man. I love you right back. You guys are already, you're on the first step. Like, you're part of this community. And that's the first thing. You could easily right now be sleeping. I know we're all in different time zones. You could be watching the latest show that everybody else is going to be talking about this week, right? You could be doing anything else, but you're here investing your time and around the right people. So you're around the right people, asking the right questions, listening to the right, hopefully I've been able to give you some of the right information. And like, this is the first step right here. Then now the second step is, as I said earlier, getting past analysis paralysis and then just doing the thing, putting it out there. Like, we don't, when I was talking to Sam earlier, he had lost a cousin of his just yesterday, I believe. So we don't get a long time on this life. Even if we live to be 100 years old, that's not a long time, right? So you need to move with urgency. I see that the most successful people, they move with urgency. It's not that you're not paying attention and you're not dedicating to time, but you also realize that there's so many things that you want to get done. And you need to get those things done. And at the same time, having that quality of life that you need for yourself, for your family, for the things that you love, right? So being able to do that, having the confidence in the fact that you can do it. And if anyone else has done it out there, if anyone else has done it, regardless, you could do it. Knowing that you don't have to chase every single customer. This was big for me because I used to get so offended if people didn't buy from me. Until I realized, like, everyone's not meant to be my customer. There's 7, 8 billion people on this earth. Why am I getting upset if this person doesn't want to buy from me? There's like a gazillion more people that I need to serve that are probably going to be easier customers. And when you go after the low customers, when you really discount yourself, some of those customers, not all, have more of a tendency to be a pain in the butt. So you have to really value who you are, your self-worth and your time, and say, look, this is the customer that I'm going to go after. And that's it. I'm not wavering. Like, we got to stop wavering with things. Right? We got to stop compromising because we think that this person, if you don't listen to your heart, like, your heart knows it all. Listen to your heart. You talk to a 85-year-old person, a 90-year-old person, they'll tell you what they mean. And they're not mincing their words at all. You talk to a 5-year-old, they'll tell you what they mean. They're not mincing their words. It's something in between those ages where we start to think that we know everything and we stop listening to our heart. Right? Because we don't want to offend someone or we don't want to be offended. You know the best things that are possible for your business. Go after the right customer, stop compromising, and do what you need to do. And then do it with some urgency, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the right business plan. You don't have to have everything in order. You don't have to have the right computer. You don't have to have the best equipment. Just go out there and start moving. And the way that the universe works, it's so interesting, is as you start to move, it will move things towards you. As you start to move, it will move things toward you. All right, so, but you got to make the first step, because it doesn't move towards you if you don't, because it'll think like, okay, well, this person is not moving, so they must not want movement towards them. It's really that simple. All right. So I appreciate you, brother, being on here. This was great. I wish I would have been able to get on earlier, and at any time, I'm definitely here. You guys reach out to me if you ever have any questions. I want you to be part of my 100 million a year that I positively impact. So hopefully I've been able to positively impact a few lives tonight. That will help me to notch down. I got a couple of more people to reach this year, so here we go.
No, this is great. Thank you so much, Ty. I just put the page, the link that Ty gave us, I put it in there again, and I put the number in there again. So go ahead and copy and paste that link so that it doesn't stop when we're getting ready to get off now. I mean, you have access. I hope I've now done my job and have given you another portal, another avenue, another access channel to help further your life and your career in Ty Cohen. So hopefully my job has been done tonight as well. So go ahead and copy that before we close out. And once again, thank you, everybody. Ty, thank you again so much, brother. Again, that's a story. I'm gonna tell this story on video tomorrow. So use your life experiences for your stories. I'm gonna tell this story on how I put up the bat signal, and Ty showed up for me, just like
Can
that.
we change that to the Superman signal?
Yeah, that's right, the Superman signal.
And I'm gonna tell you, Reed, y'all want to hear why I said Superman signal?
Go ahead, Ty.
Because when I'm going through a sickle cell crisis, right, and I got
that's right, you do post that. That's right.
I consider myself to be Black Superman.
Yep.
And when I was a kid, I used to go through these sickle cell anemia crises, and I'm hurting everywhere: my chest, my knees, my ankles, my wrists, my head, my tailbone, sometimes all at the same time. And they got me on Demerol and Dilaudid and morphine, and the pain is still there. My mom, as I said, she would give me books, National Geographic, comic books, Time Magazine, the Enquirer, the Star, you name it, Jet, Ebony. And my favorite thing to read were comic books. And I really fell in love with like Superman, except for he didn't look like me. So I'm like, all right, I need to make Superman look like me. And if Superman was Black, he wouldn't have let this stuff get to him.
Right. This is good.
So since about 13 years old, I've been calling myself the Black Superman. So whenever you got to have this alter ego, right? So Kimberly, you need to create this alter ego. Everyone on here, when things get hard, when things get tough, you look at this alter ego that's the baddest person on the planet. And you say, okay, right now, I'm going through something tough. I'm going through something that I wish I wasn't going through, but would my alter ego cry about this thing and give up and die? And the answer would be hell no.
That's right.
He or she would bust through it, right? So I call myself the Black Superman. So when I'm going through stuff, I was supposed to be dead at 17. I'm 51. I know I look 35. Y'all can stop praying. Right? But that's because Superman wouldn't allow himself to die at 17.
That's right.
As crazy as that might sound, you have to have something that you believe in, because it's the belief that's going to keep you to moving, right? Like once we stop believing in stuff, life stops. That's why I need to positively impact 100 million people a year. And it's not about making money from them. It's about making somebody laugh, maybe giving somebody hope, maybe giving somebody inspiration. So create an alter ego. That's your mission for tonight. I'm gonna stay on your theme. So your mission tonight, if you choose to accept it, is to create an alter ego. And when things get tough, you transition into that alter ego and you push through. Right? We come from people that push through. Like, we don't come from weak people. We don't come from suckers. We don't come from people that give up easy. I could only imagine what the slaves looked like that had sickle cell anemia and had to work in the field. They couldn't say, hey, look, master, you got some morphine that you can give me? Or could I take a minute off? So, like, we come from strong people that went through the things. So how could we give up when things get light in comparison to the things that they went through? So that's it. All right, y'all have a good night.
You too. I have nothing else to say. That's the mic drop right there. So have a good evening, everybody. Make sure you copy those numbers, and we'll see you all. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Thanks, Ty.
Thank
Talk to you
you.
soon, man.
All right, thank you.
Amazing.
All right,
Thanks again.
Take care, everybody.